Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another unusual top 5. Now, I had plans for this top 5. I thought, do you know what? I'm going to record this in black and white and do it silent and have like spoken bits, like, you know, like cards sort of like in between me sort of like showing you the films. But I thought, do you know what? It's going to take so fucking long to do all that. I can't be bothered. I'm sorry guys, but yeah, I thought that'd be so unique if I made it like that, but unfortunately I decided not to, because I'm going to go through my top 5 favourite silent horror movies. So these are all really early sort of 1920s or before kind of horror films. Now, I think back in the when the silent films first sort of come out, I really think that there were two film types that dominated the sort of cinema. You had comedies, obviously with Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, Lauren Hardy. So they were really popular. But then the other end of the spectrum was horror, and horror was coming out. I think because it was an easy way to grip the audience, to give them some sort of feeling and an atmosphere and an emotion. And I think that's why horror films were coming out quite a lot really in that sort of era. I mean, there were films like Faust and Hunchback of Notre Dame, Frankenstein, and all this, but none of these are in my, and Phantom of the Opera, none of these are in my top 5. Although they're fantastic, they're not in my top 5. So these are my top 5, and there's quite a few German movies in the top 5. Europe seemed to be the place to be making these things. Now, a lot of that could be because of the repression of what was going on in Europe. It was post World War One and before World War Two, so there was a lot of sort of like hardship and sort of like repression around Europe. So that could have maybe influenced a lot of these really early filmmakers to make these quite dark, sort of gothic-y sort of stories. So we won't waste any time, and we'll kick off with number 5, which is a German film called the Golem, or The Golem. This is probably one of the very early monster films, quite similar story to the Frankenstein story in a way, and it's about this sort of stone kind of monster called the Golem, and it's a really, really cool film. I saw this years and years ago. Recently re-picked this back up on Blu-ray. Eureka, I've got to give a shout out to Eureka actually for releasing a lot of these films. I think Eureka get a lot of hard sort of press really about their releases, because none of them are really spectacular, but they do release real sort of old films that are really difficult to come by, and films that have been out of print for a century or more. I mean, this film has got to be a 1920s film, and so, you know, it's probably been out of print for such a long, long time, and so it's cool to actually get a release of such, you know, an ancient old part of film history. Because that's another thing, guys, you've got to remember, these films are a part of not just horror film history, but of cinema history. These films years ago in the 1920s and that, when people went to the cinema before the talkies come along, that they were just incredible probably to see, because now we take it all for granted, the cinema, you know, it's just almost throwaway, you know, like everything else in our lives, because we get too much of a good thing. But back then this was all new, so to them it would have been, wow, this is absolutely amazing. Who would have thought we can sit down and watch this story unfold? That's not a book, you know. So it must have been absolutely amazing. So number 5 is The Golem. Now number 4 is another German film, but we believe it was filmed in America, but I think it was a German-made film, and it's called The Man Who Laughs. Now this is a very similar story to the Phantom of the Opera, really. It's about a disfigured guy who's in like a circus, like a freak show, and he's got this permanent sort of laugh, which in film history went on to influence the look of the Joker in the DC Batman universe. It had some sort of influence on that, as you can probably see by the cover. It's not too dissimilar to the Joker. But yeah, it's got that history connection. So filmmakers of today were obviously influenced by these sort of films because they were shocking, you know, and they would have shocked audiences back in the day, and they're still shocking now. There is a way to watch these, and I'll go through that at the end. This is another core release by Eureka, and again, it's another really early, probably 1920s film, and it's a sort of love story. It's a horror film. It's like Phantom of the Opera. It's very, very similar in the sort of story, but based in like a sort of circus freak show sort of thing. So, Man Who Laughs, number 4, really cool. Number 3, all three now I believe are absolute classics to the horror genre. Not to the silent movie horror, but definitely to the horror genre. These are all classics. Number 3 is a German film, and it's called Nosferatu, and it's the German sort of adaptation to the Dracula story, and it was absolutely fantastic. This edition contains, I think, about 3 different versions to the film. Let me have a look, because they all have different soundtracks. Let's have a little look for you. It's newly remastered. The oldest film version, the classic Christmas ghost story, restored. I've got another little mini film on here as well. It's not, doesn't mention it on here in the box, but when I had a look at the audio section, it had 3 different soundtracks to it, which was really, really cool. This has been released by the BFI, which is one of my favourite companies, to be honest. And it does come with a rather nice sort of booklet. Really, really cool. And it does tell the classic story of Nosferatu, and of Dracula, if you like. And it is fantastic. It's really well played. Count Orlok there, not Count Dracula, but it is the same story, and they've called him Count Orlok. Obviously, I don't know why they would have changed that story. Maybe it couldn't have been copyright, surely, back then. But there we go. Nosferatu is my 3rd favourite silent horror movie. Number 2 is an American classic. I think it's an American classic. It's called The Cat and the Canary. This is a haunted house horror film. I love the old haunted house horror films. There's something really charming about them. Even the comedy ones that Laurel and Hardy done. A Haunting We Would Go, I think that was called. And they go to a haunted house to get their inheritance that was due to them. And it's a really cool film. So this is another great edition with a booklet, which is really, really cool. Great film, full of atmosphere, fantastic photography in this one. And this is the new release from Eureka. And this is they call it a limited edition release because of the slipcase. There's only 2,000 copies of this available with a slipcase. So that's pretty cool, and that's my 2nd favourite silent horror movie. I'm going to do a week of silent horror movies, so I'm going to review some of these films this week. So I'll probably review these 2 from my channel. So keep your eyes out for those if you're interested. So number 1, my favourite silent horror movie has to be the German classic Das Cabinet Dr. Caligari. That is my favourite silent movie. It's fantastic. It's about this again, it's based on like a freak show sort of circus, and there's this evil old guy, and he sort of controls our man, who's almost like a zombie, and he controls him, sends him out to do killings and stuff for him, and kidnapping and things like this. It's a fantastic horror film, a classic horror film with elements of Frankenstein, of course, with elements maybe of the first zombie, with elements of a vampire. It sort of crosses all those sort of genres, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's such a good film. Really highly recommend. If you've not seen any silent horror movies, this is fantastic. It's absolutely iconic, I think, and it must have influenced so many films. Again, this is a German film. this is another collector's edition. I think this is just getting a 4K release, if I remember right. But I'm sticking to the one that I've got. Let's have a look if there's any information on here about it for you. 1920. So it's a German film. This contains a extensive 2014 restoration of the film, and it looks stunning, absolutely stunning. Really, really cool. Limited edition of, I think it's 2,000 of this. But yeah, really, really cool to have it in my collection. It is still available, and you can still pick this collector's edition up on places like CX, probably for quite a good price, probably £25, something like that, if you want to pick up something that's really, really cool. And that's absolutely amazing. That is my favourite silent horror movie. Does Cabinet, does Dr. Caligari. Really, really cool. These are all, guys, these are all part of cinema history. So that's really why they're worth watching and getting hold of if you can, because they are really, really important, I think, anyway, to what we watch today. Without these sort of films, you know, maybe a lot of films wouldn't happen. But there we go, they're just fantastic. Now, I said to you earlier, there is a way to watch these films. Now, I don't believe it's just sitting down in the afternoon, broad daylight, or sitting home with your light on, watching a film. You're not going to gain nothing out of it. You're just going to think, oh, it's no boring. I have to read all this writing on all this sort of thing, and it can become a bit boring. So there is a certain way to watch the film. A darkened room helps. Okay, put yourself in a darkened atmosphere. Set it up as an event almost. Because back in the day, that's how it would have been. If you were lucky enough to go to a theatre and watch one of these films, probably with a live orchestra, it was an event, so you'd get dressed up. I'm not telling you to get dressed up, right? Don't put on a three-piece suit or anything like that. Just darken the room. Watch it late at night, you know, when it's nice and dark, you know, and have the sound up for the sound of the orchestra. Or if you've got decent headphones, put headphones on and listen to the beautiful music that's playing along with the film. You know, get your snacks if you want, you know, and just sit there and make it like in a cinema event, but watch it in the dark, because these films require your attention and they require the atmosphere. So the only way to get that atmosphere is to put yourself into that sort of environment. So yeah, don't just plonk them on in an afternoon, broad daylight. You're not going to enjoy it as much. You're not going to catch the atmosphere of the film. But if you set it up and treat it like you're going to the cinema to watch The Cat and the Canary, so that's your movie for the night. So you set it all up like you're going to watch it in the dark, make yourself comfortable, get your drinks and everything, and just sit there and enjoy it. And I think you'd probably appreciate the film more, and you'd probably soak in the atmosphere because it's in the dark. Because a lot of this photography is dark because it's black and white, and sometimes it's sepia in colour. It's not always 100% black and white, because they were introducing they would have probably over the lens some sort of filter, like a colour filter, blue or sepia or something like that, and they would film them in different colours, but you would get this amazing atmosphere if you watch it in the dark. That's how I enjoy it. That's how I appreciate these films, and that's how they're just as wonderful and important to me than any Hammer film, than any Universal film, any of films in those sort of early days. These are just as good. Just because there's no speaking in it, you can sort of adds to that eeriness, really, you know. And that kind of, again, appreciate that, and appreciate the music that goes with the film, because that can be a character of the movie and explains the story without you actually having to see the words. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this top 5. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned, and I will be doing a review of a couple of these movies. And please take your time out and pick them up. if you're a horror fan and you really want to delve into the history of horror movies, you've got to start at the beginning, you know, and these were the beginning. And so without these, like I said, you wouldn't have your other films, or they wouldn't be as popular, I think, as now, and they're still popular now because you just look. Robert Eggers is just going to just done a remake of the Nosferatu film, which is going to be fantastic, and I can't wait for that because he's one of my favourite directors, as you well know. He directed The Witch, and he directed The Lighthouse. Fantastic director. So I'm really looking forward to that. So it's still popular now, and the fact that our directors that we love watch these and appreciate these films, so should we. Till the next video, please check out some channels. Check out Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Design, Pizzlewell, I Am Icelord, Cat Watches Horror Movies, and Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House. Till next time, look after yourselves. Oh, and a massive shout out to the lad who's standing there. Look after yourselves, look after one another. I really hope I'll see you all soon.